Okay, so you have the 1930s Nazis, hidden Nazis in the United States, and a jetpack. That sounds like that should be a pretty decent movie. Oh, it's also based off a comic book. That's the Rocketeer. You know, you have a stunt pilot who essentially finds a prototype of a Nazi-designed jetpack, which is going to be used to essentially take over the United States, and then essentially becomes like a flying superhero in a pretty decent 1930s period piece. So you have hidden Nazis, you know, gangs, in the 1930s, and the guy with the jetpack, based off a comic. The Rocketeer is actually a pretty solid movie. It's talky in some points, but when it comes to, now again, this is like, you know, early 90s, thinking back to the early 90s, this had a really great feel to it. You know, you got some pretty decent acting. It really felt like it was one of those super old, like, Saturday, like, matinee serials. All that pretty much means is that, you know, this is a movie that kind of had that certain level of, like, whimsy to it and charm. And kind of did the whole, like, here's a decent movie where you can watch it and you can kind of get that whole suspension of disbelief. It's not like they're really super hard pushing it. It's a guy with a jetpack. You know, nothing superhuman about him. It's a guy with a jetpack and a helmet that, in most cases, is not aerodynamically designed. What killed it is part of Disney. You know, it's a solid movie from a 1990s perspective, based off a comic that nobody saw because, you know, I didn't see it in theaters when it came out. I didn't. I ended up seeing it later when it was on, you know, TV. Why? Because when I was like 12, you know, I didn't want to go see a Disney movie. This movie wasn't marketed very well, which is weird because it's a movie where it did horrible at the box office, by all intents and purposes, but did fairly well, you know, from a critical standpoint, with some people even saying this is how you should do comic book adaptation. Why did nobody see it? It was marketed poorly. There were mentions of doing sequels. You might notice that's kind of like a running theme. They mentioned sequels for The Shadow. They mentioned sequels for The Phantom. They mentioned sequels for The Rocketeer. However, they all did poorly. But if you're in the mood for watching a movie that definitely has that, the more kind of like whimsical, in some cases slightly cheesy sort of Saturday matinee serial sort of feel to it, The Rocketeer is actually a pretty enjoyable movie. It's family friendly enough, which, you know, also helps. Because some of them, you know, I was reading the thing recently about how current superhero movies are relatively bad role models. Yes, vigilantes going out and fighting crime on their own with no care for law enforcement is a bad role, are bad role models, yeah. Rocketeer, similar thing. You've got a stuntman who's really not, who's kind of being chased by the FBI as well as Nazis. So he's got that loner thing to him. Does it kind of work? Can you kind of see that similar thing in the same vein as people like, you know, Batman and Iron Man? Yeah. But this is a Disney movie with more whimsical nature to it. But not like super over the top Disney. This is like pre-Pirates of the Caribbean sort of Disney, where it's a solid movie, it's got action to it, but it still has a decent family core to it, and that is The Rocketeer.